Hello everyone, welcome to part 3. In this part I'm gonna tear down the ESC from this JLB car. So here I have the electronic speed controller. It's waterproof. So I removed the 4 screws that holds down the cover for the fan, and there you have. It's all made of plastic, and there is a heat sink screwed in 4 screws. And I'm going to take my hand saw and I'm gonna cut around that casing that's plastic. I'm gonna cut into pieces around, just not too deep so I don't damage the board, about 1 millimeter. So I'm cutting a little bit and then I'm looking and then I'm cutting more, just enough to be able to peel off this plastic cover. So this video will be mostly voice over and fast forward because it took me about an hour and a half to film and try to expose the board that's inside, since it's been cemented with waterproof some sort of cement, silicone, whatever it's inside. So I took my time. I used my little hand tools to pry and break off all that plastic so I can expose the interior. Alright, so I've been cutting slowly, millimeter by millimeter, to be able to get this plastic casing pried off with my hand tool, with my little metal prying tool. And then if it was not enough, I was cutting more, so I did this process all around to get that plastic to break it off. And I even had to use my sharp knife to cut it. It was really hard to cut. Whatever that cement inside, it's really hard. Like, it was very hard to cut it. Even the plastic, it was very tough. It wasn't easy, just like any other plastic. I bet it was, it's so hard to tear this down because of it's supposed to withstand heat, probably, since it's 120 amps at peak power. So it was really hard. Sometimes I was getting frustrated that it was so hard to, cut it piece by piece all the way around. At some points I wanted to give up, but I took some breaks and I went on and on with patience and a lot of pain in the fingers from holding it, from cutting it. Good thing I didn't cut any of my fingers. Alright, so when I saw the thickness of this plastic, then I used my hand saw to cut the sides off, which made it much faster, much easier. I was very, very careful cutting around next to those wires right there. This part, cutting with the hand saw, I would say was the easiest part of this entire process. Just cut straight down and then you get rid of these pieces of plastic and that's it. But the next part, where all this cement had to be, plus I had to be very careful when peeling off this cement because it was hard. And I don't know how were the board inside, how was it, like where the elements are. So I used my knife. I wanted to see the edge of the board, like I was cutting like this slices until I would expose the edge of the board. And I did so all the way around, because you don't know where's the board, so you can't just cut anywhere you want, because you don't want to cut the elements on the board. At this point I had to remove this heatsink. It's only 4 screws that I had to unscrew in order to lift off that heatsink. There was some paste, more like a silicone pad on top of those. These look like also some heat sinks, covering probably the chip that were underneath. Trying to cut corners piece by piece with my knife and making sure I'm not cutting any elements or whatever was underneath this cement. So I started with the corners, just cutting slowly, slice by slice, until I don't see something, you know, element or whatever would be in there, resistor, capacitor. So piece by piece, slice by slice. Very annoying process, very much time consuming process, because you don't know what could be anywhere underneath this. It was very hard to remove this cement, glue, whatever you want to call it. So as I was cutting with my knife, I thought about it and I said, you know, why don't I use my heat gun to heat it up and see if it would get softer, that cement. But unfortunately with the heat gun it wasn't getting softer at all, but I was able to heat it up very hot, and I was able to use my little prying a little plastic tool, and I was able to, you know, peel it off slowly, piece by piece. Like when I was heating it up, it was breaking piece by piece, that cement. So I started from the corners and I worked my way into the middle of the board. So I was getting it was breaking up into pieces. So I had to heat it up again and again and again, and I was doing, you know, some small pieces, but at the same time I was worried that when I peel off that cement hot from the board, none of the elements, I was hoping none of the elements would have come off at the same time. So thank goodness nothing like that happened. That cement was just coming off into pieces. Another long process with a heat gun, but it worked out actually. Voila, at this point there's where one big piece came off and the entire board was exposed. And so right away I saw that there are two boards that they were soldered together with some pins on both sides. And so I cleaned every other piece of cement around it where I could. I scraped it off, and I exposed those soldered pins that the two boards were soldered together. And after this I didn't film, but all I did is I used my cutting pliers and I cut off those pins from the middle between the boards, and then I just desolder them. Alright, so as you can see I was successful disassembling this ESC electronic speed controller. I used the heat gun, I used my tools, and carefully I removed all that cement, all that stuff. It was frustrating, it was hard, but I succeeded and I'm very happy for that. Now in the next video, in part 4, I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna go over all the troubleshooting we did with my brother. With his help we were able to figure out what it was wrong, what was causing the problem, and how we found a fix for that. So stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.